Okay, good morning, students. Please inform others to join quickly. Ashwini? Ashwini, you're there? Ashwini, are you there?
Sir, it's Pradeep.
Pradeep, please inform others to join quickly.
Yes, sir.
Who is 09?
Jasvina, sir.
Jaswina, are you there? Jaswina, it's a finance class. You can log out. Jaswina, are you there? Rohin, inform others to join quickly. I have put a message already.
Yes, sir.
Who is 53? KL 19 MBA 53. Who is it? Vishaka, mute yourself. There's a lot of background sound. Okay, guys, should we start? Because only 11 of them have joined so far. Can everybody come in the video mode for 2 minutes? Rohin, you have informed others to join?
Yeah, I have informed.
Swapnil, please inform Rohit to call me immediately after this class.
Okay, sir.
Okay, guys, around 16 of them have joined. Okay, so I'll just start the class. Okay, good morning, everyone. Yeah, you can off your videos if you want to now. Once the class is started, later at the end of the class, you can on the videos again. Okay. As usual, guys, you can type your USN number in the chat box so that that is your attendance. So quickly give your attendance by putting your USN number in the chat box. Okay. So good morning once again. Let's begin with the part that we had left in the previous class. Okay, if you remember, we started with corporate restructuring, and in that we have already completed the explanation. Then we completed the reasons of acquisitions and reasons for achieving success. Okay, and then we went on to do the different the explanations of the different types of corporate restructuring, like expansion and growth. What is expansion and growth? There we studied organic growth, inorganic growth. Then we went on to study, what is merger? So in merger we have something called as consolidation, and we have something called as absorption. So consolidation is called as amalgamation in India. So we studied that. Then what is absorption? What is reverse merger? We also studied that. Then in acquisition, what is acquisition? All those intricacies is what we studied. Then we also studied what is a tender offer. Okay, it's a type of a hostile takeover, tender offer. Then hostile takeover is again as we studied the tender offer. Okay, hostile takeover is forceful acquisition of another company is called as hostile takeover. Okay, then we had stopped here, right? Joint venture. Okay, though I have explained you this, let's begin with this part itself. Okay, so joint venture, its creation of separate company by 2 or more companies by capital contribution. The most important thing about joint venture is for a specific purpose and limited duration. Okay. Now, can you name some or give me some examples of joint ventures in India, guys? In India, any joint ventures that you have come across quickly? Joint ventures that we have come across in India.
Maruti Suzuki.
Maruti Suzuki.
Hero Honda.
Yes, Maruti Suzuki. Who is this?
Hero Honda.
Hero Honda. Yes. Then Maruti Suzuki, Hero Honda, Kawasaki Bajaj, Mahindra Renault, right? Kinetic Honda. All these are examples of joint ventures. Now, if you understand, these joint ventures are for a specific purpose. Now, let us take simple example of Hero Honda. Okay. Now, Hero initially is a cycle manufacturing company. It used to manufacture cycles in India, or it still manufactures cycles in India. Okay. And Honda is the automobile company from Japan, right? Now, Honda wanted to enter into Indian market. Hero already had its market in India, like it had a lot of penetration into the Indian market because of its cycles. There were hardly any competitors for cycles in India for Hero. So Hero had a good market, let's say, hold of the market in India, and Honda wanted to enter into the Indian market with its automobiles or with its two-wheelers. Honda did not have that opportunity to directly enter into India, directly do the FDI and start its business. So it had, because there were entry barriers. So what did Honda do? Honda tied up or entered into a joint venture with Hero. Okay, and it became Hero Honda. Now, when Hero Honda is a joint venture, it's not that Hero is not existing and Honda is not existing. No. They exist separately, do their business separately. Now, Hero Honda is nowhere related to Hero Cycles, or Hero Honda is nowhere related to Honda. Okay, it's a separate joint venture. So it is a joint venture for a specific purpose, that is to manufacture motorcycles or two-wheelers in the Indian market. That is the specific purpose of this particular joint venture, that is Hero Honda. And it was for a limited period of time, though it started long back. Recently, let's say around 7-8 years back, the joint venture was ended and Hero and Honda became separate entities. Now, Honda manufactures its own two-wheelers in India. Okay, Hero is still manufacturing its two-wheelers in India. So Hero is just Hero Motocorp now, and Honda is Honda Motors, right? So that is how they split. So the reason to give you this example was to tell you that joint venture is for a specific purpose and for a limited duration. It's not for entire life. Okay, and venture partners continue to be in their respective business. Yes, Hero is into its own business of manufacturing cycles. That is their traditional business. Honda is still manufacturing cars and automobiles and two-wheelers, etc. on their own, okay, without any partnership. So their business are still there. Plus, there was a joint venture. Now that joint venture is also does not exist. That joint venture also does not exist. Okay, so joint venture is two companies come together for a specific purpose and for a limited duration. Okay, then next one is smart sizing. Okay, we have already discussed in brief what is smart sizing. It is reducing the size of your company. Okay, it can be done to down scoping and downsizing. If you remember, that is reducing the number of units is downsizing. Whereas you reduce the number of businesses that you have, or you come out of the unrelated businesses, then you call it as down scoping. You reduce the scope. Okay, so demerger is transfer of undertaking from an existing company to another existing company. Okay, so that is called as a demerger. Now we have something called as sell-offs. So if you remember, we had used these words in the previous classes, that is spin-off, split-off, and split-ups. And I told you that I'll be explaining you this in the next class. Okay, so what is a spin-off? Let us understand spin-off. Okay, a new legal entity is created out of a parent firm shareholder, parent firm. Okay, it's a bit incomplete. Okay, I'll just complete it. Okay, a new legal entity is created out of the existing firm, and parent firm shareholders get proportionate to their holdings shares of the new company. Okay, so that is what happens. Okay, so let me try to just let me just draw this over here. Okay, let's say this is your parent company. Okay, this is your parent company. Okay, what happens is, let's say okay, this is your parent company, right? What happens in a spin off? Okay, the words are a bit confusing, or they are very much close to each other, so let's understand. It's a spin off. Okay, so what happens here is, okay, suppose this entity, a separate legal entity is created out of the parent company, so this becomes a separate legal entity, so this ceases to exist. Okay, so a separate entity is created. Okay, and the shareholders of this existing company, the shareholders of this company will get proportionate shares of this company. For example, let's say if I have 2 shares of this company, I may get 4 shares of the newly formed company. If I have 4 shares, I may get 8 shares of the newly formed company. Okay, so what happens is, the shareholders of this company will be having 2 shares of this existing company, plus it will also have 4 shares of the new company, right? This is called as spin-off. Okay, so let me go through it once again. Okay, a spin-off is basically a new legal entity is created out of the existing entity, and the shareholders of the parent firm's shareholders or the existing company's shareholders get proportionate shares to their holding shares of new company. Okay, that I hope you're clear with this spin-off, everyone. Are you clear with spin-off?
So can you repeat it, sir, please?
Yeah. Okay. So spin-off is basically, let's say this is your existing parent company or existing entity. Okay. Now from this, what happens is, a separate entity is created. Sorry. Okay, a separate entity is created. Like this is your separate entity from this company itself, from the parent company. Okay, this is called as the parent company, and this is a separate entity which is created. Okay, and what happens in a spin-off is, when the separate entity is created, the shareholders of this particular company, okay, will get proportionate shares of this company. That means, let's say Rashmi, you are a shareholder of this parent company. So Rashmi is a shareholder of this parent company, and she has around 8 shares, and it is decided that for every 1 share you are going to get 2 shares of the new company. Okay, so since Rashmi has 8 shares of this parent company, how much will Rashmi get of this new company? How much shares will Rashmi get from this new company? Rashmi?
So what was the proportion you told?
It's 1:2. I have written it over here. 1:2.
Yes, sir. Say they are having 1 share of proportion, parent company, they are getting 2 shares for new company,
Yes,
sir?
yes.
The 16, sir.
Yes. So that is what is called as a spin-off. Clear with that now?
Yes, sir. Got it, sir.
A separate legal entity is created out of the parent company, and the shareholders of this parent company will get proportionate share of the new entity. Okay? Is everyone clear with this? If yes, give a thumbs up quickly. Okay, great. Okay, so let's move on to the next part, that is your split up. Now, what is a split up? The split off, sorry, not split up, split off. Okay, parent company shareholders who opt will get shares in the new company in exchange of their holding in the parent unit. Now, what is the difference? Can somebody tell me the difference between spin off and split off? There's only one difference, guys. Most of the things remains the same, like a new entity is created from the parent company, that remains the same. Only one difference. And what is that difference? Can somebody point out that difference? Anyone?
So here they won't be issued new shares.
Sorry, who is this?
Sir Rashmi.
Yeah, Rashmi, please go ahead.
So here they won't be issued new shares for this new company, sir. The shares that are already held, on the basis of that only they will be given shareholding.
Okay, not exactly. That is what that is what spin-off is. Okay, split off. I'll tell you the difference here. Okay, in
So,
spin-off.
but
In spin-off, what
but
happens is you will hold on to both the shares. That is, you will be having the shares of the parent company also, plus you will be issued shares of the new entity. Correct? Whereas in split off, what happens is parent company shareholders who opt will get shares in the new company in exchange. Exchange means what? They have to give their shares of the parent company and then take the shares of the new entity. So they will no longer be the shareholders of the parent company. In case of spin-off, the shareholders will remain the shareholders of the parent company as well as the new company. In case of split-off, they have to exchange their shares. That means they have to give their shares and then take the shares of the new company. So what happens in this bargain? You will not remain the shareholder of the parent company. You will cease to exist as a shareholder of the parent company. You will be only the shareholder of the new entity because you are exchanging. Here you will directly get proportionate shares. Here you are exchanging. Are you understanding the difference here? Okay, let us make it more clear with an example. Let's say this is a parent company P. Okay, now from this parent company, a separate entity is created. This is your new entity, that is a separate entity which is created. Okay, in case of spin-off, okay, I'm talking about spin-off now. What happens is the shareholders of this company, let's say he's a shareholder of this company. Okay, what he will get, he already has shares of this parent company. Okay, plus he will get shares of this new company also on a proportionate basis, or also called as a pro rata basis. Okay, it is pro rata, PRORATA, pro rata basis. Okay, that is called as a spin-off. So this is your spin-off where the shareholders of the parent company will have the shares of the parent company, plus it will get the shares of the new entity. Clear with spin-off now? Now, if this is spin-off, then what is a split-off? Okay, in case of split-off, okay, let me draw that again. Suppose this is your parent company and this is your new entity that you have created. New entity that is created. Okay, in case of a split-off, what happens is the shareholder of this company, okay, will exchange the shares. That is, he will give the shares, and in exchange he will receive the shares of this company. So what happens? He will cease to exist as a shareholder of this company. He will no longer be the shareholder of that parent company. He will be just a shareholder of this new entity. That is called as a split off. Are you all understanding the difference here? Guys, if it is yes, give a thumbs up quickly. Okay, fine. Now, spin-off is completed, split-off is completed. Last one is split up. Okay, now again, a bit of confusion. It is split off and now it is split up. Now, split up means what? Suppose this is your entity, this is your company that is there. Okay, this company will cease to exist and many small companies would be formed out of this company itself. Okay, many small companies would be formed out of this company. This is called as a split up. Okay, so parent unit spins off all its units to the existing holders and it ceases to exist. That means it will not exist now. That parent company will cease to exist. Okay, so many small units would be created and the shareholders would be getting shares of these small units and the parent company will cease to exist. That is called as a split up. Are you clear with these three concepts? That is spin off, split off, and split up. Any doubts here? Anyone? Any doubts? I'll just wait here for 2 minutes. If you have any doubts, you can go through it. If you have any doubts, you are free to ask.
Sir, what is pro rata basis?
Sorry?
Sir, pro rata basis.
Pro rata means proportionate basis. Means if you have, let's say the I was talking to Rashmi, I told you that the ratio is, let's say 1:2. That is for every 1 share you will get 2 shares of the new company. Okay, of the new company. Sorry, is this? Okay, for every 1 share of the parent company, you get 2 shares of the new company. If this is the proportion given, then you get it on a proportionate basis, also called as a pro rata basis. Okay, pro rata, R-A-T-A, pro rata basis. Clear with this? So suppose you have 10 shares of this parent company, then on pro rata basis means what? You will get 20 shares of the new company. That is pro rata because it is 1:2. For every 1 share, you're going to get 2 shares. You have 10 shares with you, so you will get 20 shares of the new company. That is called as pro rata or proportionate basis. Clear?
Yes, sir.
So in case of split up, the units are like the companies, the main parent company is then divided into other units.
Yes.
Then what about shareholders of the main company?
That is what they will get the shares of those new entities now. They will not their shares of the parent company will go, and instead of that, they will get the shares of the new companies or the new units which are formed. So they will be the shareholders of those new units.
So if there are 5-6 units, of all 5-6 units, they will get the shares.
That depends on the contract again, Rohit.
Okay, okay.
Okay, if it is a spin-off, then yes, they will get shares of all the 5 units.
Okay, sir.
Split up in the form of a spin-off. If it is that case, then yes, they will get shares of each and every company instead of the shares of the parent company.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, on a proportionate basis again.
Yes, sir.
I hope everybody is clear with this concept of spin-off, split up, and split off. Okay, great. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. Again, some forms of divestitures are some forms of smart sizing are divestitures. That is sale of segment of a company to outsider for cash or securities. Yes, you sell a part of your company to someone. That is called as divestitures or also called as divestitures. Equity carve out means offer to the public parent company shareholdings of the subsidiary for raising cash without losing control. Okay, so here what happens is equity carve out means what? Suppose you are a parent company and you have shares of the subsidiary also. What you will do is a part of shares of your subsidiary, you will give it to the public. You're carving out, you're removing your equity, you're taking out your money. Okay, so from the subsidiary company, some shares that you hold, let's say you are a parent company and you hold certain shares in that subsidiary company, you will sell some portion of that shares to the general public. So you get cash. Okay, and you don't lose control also because you're not selling all the shares, you're just selling a part of the shares to the public. Okay, so this is called as equity carve out. Okay, carve out means cutting out of equity. So you sell your equity and get your cash, and still you control the subsidiary. Okay, so that is called as equity carve out. Then disinvestment is disposing part of holding in a company, especially used for privatization. Okay, disinvestment is again like a divestitures, but normally when we talk about government undertakings and when PSUs, let's say public sector units, and when the government takes out its money from the PSUs, we call it as disinvestment. Okay, so disinvestment is when the government pulls out its money from a public sector units and it becomes a private company. So that is what is called as disinvestment. That is normally done for privatization. Okay, and next one is reconstruction, that is external, and transferring entire business to new company where most of the present shareholders continue. Transferring company liquidates. Okay, it is just that you are putting your, let's say you're shifting your money from your right pocket to your left pocket. That's it. Only your pocket is changing. Money is not changing. Nothing is changing. In the same way, in case of external reconstruction, what happens is you transfer your entire business to a new company. Okay, that is just like changing the name of the company. So you transfer your entire business to the new company where most of the present shareholders continue. Transferring company, the old company liquidates. That is called as reconstruction, external reconstruction. So are you clear with all these forms of smart sizing? That is sell-offs, divestitures, equity carve-outs, disinvestment, and reconstruction. Is everybody clear with these concepts of smart sizing? Any doubts here?
Sir, can you explain reconstruction once again, sir?
Okay, it's very simple. You have a company, you transfer your entire business to some new company. You form a new company and you transfer your entire business to that new company. Your old company will liquidate and the new company will continue. The shareholders of the old company would be the shareholders of the new company. That's it. So there will be no major changes in your organization. Only thing is your old the company which you already had, that will liquidate. A new company would be formed, but all other things would remain the same. Clear?
Yes, sir. Clear.
Sure, you have understood, Rashmi?
Yes, sir. Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? Any other doubt? I hope others are not sleeping. Okay, fine. Next one is corporate control, where we talk about premium buyback, and we have already discussed about it. Premium buyback of stocks to the market rate, also known as green mail. That is, you try to buy back the shares from the general public by paying them a premium amount. Let's say the price of the share is 10 rupees. You pay them in the market. You pay them 20 rupees and buy the stocks. That is called as premium buyback. Standstill agreement is a contract made at buyback, that the holders will not make further attempts to take over the company. Okay, so it's an agreement between the shareholders that they will not attempt to take over the company, remain as it is. Is there any problem?
No, sir.
Who is this? Jaswina, are you there? Okay, fine. I don't know what she is playing with. She's trying to do something. Okay, yes. So standstill agreement is where it is basically stand wherever you are. You are not going to make any attempt to buy my company. Okay, that is the agreement between the company and the shareholders. Okay, anti-takeover codes is issued by the regulatory authority and amendment to the company law. Okay, so they are anti-takeover codes which protect you from a takeover. And then next one is a proxy contest, where descendant group seeking to enter board of directors. Let's say I was a board of director. Now I am not allowed to contest. So what do I do is I appoint or I nominate a proxy, a person to be the director of the company, to contest the election and be the director of the company. So he will be just a dummy and I will guide him, or I will direct him to take decisions in the company. So that is how I can still be the director of the company, not directly but indirectly. That is called as a proxy contest. Okay. Then change in ownership structure is basically exchange offers, like preference shareholders or debt are offered equity shares. So convertible preference shares are there, convertible debentures are there. You can convert them into equity shares. That is called as exchange offers. Okay, so you change the ownership structure. Shares repurchase is a buyback of some holdings from the public. Okay, it's just like premium buyback. So you buy back the shares from the public. Going private is the public holding is acquired by a few to bring down number of members below the statutory limit of 7. Okay, so public limited company has many members. Okay, and what they do is they the management tries to buy all the shares which are issued to the general public. They buy back all the shares and limit it to only 7 members. When the number comes down to 7 members, automatically your public limited company gets converted into a private limited company. Okay, that is called as going private. Then management buyout is when management members initiate going private. Okay, when the management thinks of going private and buys the shares of the company, it is called as management buyout. And leverage buyout is when the management buyout is financed by outsiders. It is called as leverage buyout. Basically, through a loan. When the management takes a lot of loan and then buys the shares of the company to go private, that is called as a leveraged buyout. Okay, leverage is loan. We have already discussed that. So are you clear with these 5? That is exchange offers, shares repurchase, going private, management buyout, and leverage buyout. Any doubts in any of these 5? Guys, quickly answer. Any doubts? If you are clear, please give a thumbs up so that I can go ahead with the next part. Okay, great. Okay, next, let us just complete this part. We are just left with 3 minutes. Okay, so motives of M&A we have already studied. Why we go for an M&A, or why do we go for an acquisition? Reasons for acquisition. Again, we are repeating it here. That is motives of mergers and acquisition. So accelerated growth means quick growth. We want to grow very quickly. That is why we go for a merger or acquisition. Enhanced profitability. Yes, you want to increase your profitability by entering into new businesses or expanding your businesses. You want to enhance your profitability. That is the reason you go for a merger or acquisition. You want to diversify your risk. You don't want to be in the same business. You want to be in different businesses so that your risk is minimized. That is the reason why you may go for a merger or acquisition. Okay, that is another motive. Reduction of tax liability. Now this is something new. Okay, what happens is sometimes I pay a lot of tax. Let's say my company is paying a lot of tax. So what do is I try to acquire a loss-making company. Maybe the product is good, the management is good, but still it is a loss-making company. I will buy that company. So what happens is the loss of that company gets added to my balance sheet. In my consolidated balance sheet, those losses are getting added, right? And my profit reduces. Because of those losses, my profits are reducing. Thus, my tax liability reduces. Okay, so sometimes we go for a merger acquisition for reducing tax liability as well. Then for other financial benefits, like a company may be cash rich. Okay, it may be having a lot of cash with it, but it is not doing well. So I tend to acquire that company or merge with that company so that I can get the cash reserves of that particular company. So that is financial benefits. Okay, or it has a lot of assets where I can give it for mortgage or use it as a collateral to get more loan. So that is another financial advantage. Increased market power. We have already discussed about it. Like I want to grow my market share. Overcoming entry barriers. We have studied. Rehabilitation of sick units. Yes, sometimes there is sick units and I find a lot of potential in that sick unit. So I acquire that sick unit, re-engineer, business process re-engineering, complete turnaround, and then make it a profit-making company. So that is why I go for merger acquisition. And sometimes I go for a quick exit, avoid liquidation litigation. So I don't want to liquidate my affairs. I want to exit. So I ask somebody else to acquire my company. So that is why I go for a merger or acquisition. So these are the motives of mergers acquisition. Okay, anytime this will stop now. Okay, so if you are, I hope you're clear with it. If it is clear, please give a thumbs up and we'll close the meeting.